Can we give him a huge round of applause now? You can take your seat over there, sir, please. Thank you. Yes, please. Now, the panelists for this dialogue, let me welcome former Senator, former Minister of Finance, one of the finest economists and intellectuals this country has ever developed. Please welcome here distinguished Senator Sanusi Dagash. And to follow is a man that I admire. When I grew up, I liked to wear a red tie like him. He is of the Heirs Holdings and Tony Elumelu Foundation. Distinguished, you can take your brother with you as I welcome here Mr. Tony Elumelu. And then finally, the Honorable Minister for Public Service in Uganda. You are really multitasking in Nigeria. We appreciate you. I'd like to welcome here Wilson Muruli Mukasa to step forward here. It's going to be about 25 minutes or thereabouts of dialogue on a view from our amazingly beautiful continent. Honorable Minister, we thank you. And let me also announce that this man is also representing the Prime Minister of Uganda at this event. So I'll hand over the microphone. Okay, you have yours. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm flattered and delighted to be here and to be put in this position as the chair for this session. I think what I would like to do is just ask our panelists for their vision of where Nigeria goes from here, because at the very moment at which the oil price has gone down and depressed the Nigerian economy, we now have come across this perhaps new pot of gold, which is the pensions and looking at the long term. So what I'll do is simply ask the panelists to give their view about how they see Nigeria going forward with this new opportunity. Tony, would you like to start?
So first, let me congratulate the DG of PENCOM and her colleagues for organizing this, and let me also commend all African pension fund administrators and regulators for making this possible. The narrative, the moderators said we should talk about Nigeria, but I think it's a continent. This is a continental platform for all of Africa, so I'd like to broaden the conversation a little bit to the issue of the economic prosperity of Africa, because Nigeria is a microcosm of Africa. What happens in Nigeria affects all of Africa. So if you permit me, let me talk about Africa. Africa Rising is a narrative that we hear about every time, and we've heard about this for a long time. And the question people are beginning to ask is, when will Africa indeed rise? Not just about Africa rising. And for Africa to rise, there are things we must do. I will talk about two, and maybe others can talk about others. One of the things we need to do if Africa must rise, in my viewpoint, is we need to deal with the issue of infrastructure. If we deal with the issue of infrastructure, it will help Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, etc., to diversify their economies and grow economic prosperity for their people. And to deal with infrastructure, we need to mobilize capital. And the surest way of mobilizing capital is national savings mobilization and regional savings mobilization. So what PENCOM in Nigeria and across Africa, what you're doing is great. You're helping You're helping to mobilize capital, which should help us to fire infrastructure. And as we deal with infrastructure, we deal with issue of poverty, issue of economic inclusiveness, issue of prosperity for everyone, and we're able to diversify the economy and with the attendant benefits of diversification of the economies. The second point is entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is very important, and I believe that in Africa we have abundance of innovative ideas. Our people are talented, energetic, we have young, structure. We'll try this. This is the third microphone. Wow. So the demographic structure of our population is such that we must find a creative way of engaging our young ones. And our young ones are ready to be engaged. And we must engage them if we must deal with the issue of development on the continent. So we need all of us to support entrepreneurs. That is why in our little world, the Tony Elumelu Foundation is trying to help support 10,000 African entrepreneurs, because if they succeed, we all succeed in Africa. So today, as we celebrate and reward people who have done well in helping us to mobilize savings that will help us drive infrastructure development, which will lead to poverty alleviation, economic prosperity, inclusive growth and employment, we need to think of how we can establish a nexus, or how we can get the PENCOM organizations, the PENCOM PFAs, to help us support entrepreneurship beyond infrastructure. So infrastructure is good. I know Chinelo in Nigeria, they tweaked with the PENCOM regulation guidelines to support infrastructure. But to support infrastructure, we must also find a creative way of supporting entrepreneurs. Why do I say this? We mobilize our savings and we can channel our savings to areas that will help us drive development. A key aspect, what will help us on the continent, is to make sure we engage our youth. And our youth, they need access to capital, they need mentoring, and if through PENCOM, even if it's 5% of the national and regional savings mobilization, that we channel into the entrepreneurship space to help our young entrepreneurs prove their concepts, it will help significantly in developing our continent. So to talk about what we should do at a time like this, two things: continue to mobilize savings so that we will be able to support finance infrastructure, to help to support entrepreneurs through some creative intervention. I know it's fairly risky, but if we support people at that level, commit 1 to 5% of national savings, it will help to change the narrative. And all this infrastructure, the infrastructure support and support for entrepreneurs will help us change the narrative of Africa rising to a rising Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now ask Muruli Mukasa from Uganda to give us his views.
Thank you very much, Chair and dear panelists, ladies and gentlemen. I think there is need for prioritization. The way forward is really to prioritize. Now there is this wonderful window of the PENCOM. We need to look at a few sectors which are very strategic and important in unlocking the potential of Nigeria and indeed the entire African continent. And we really zoom down on those sectors, give them every possible attention with all the resources which we have, both human and material. And then when they have taken off, then we can now attend to other priorities. But really, as I said, key among these There's infrastructure, there's power, there is agriculture, and inevitably industrialization, at least based initially on agriculture and maybe the minerals which may be available, but at least there's energy as well. Those key areas where we need to put effort and even put all the resources which we have, PENCOM resources and otherwise, and resources for friends. Then after some time, when we've taken off, then we can look at other sectors. But definitely prioritization is important. Discipline as well is important in all aspects. Discipline in all aspects, that's important. That way, I think, we shall overcome some of these shortcomings which we are facing now in the African continent and move forward and definitely have a very decent life for all of us, for all our relatives and friends on the continent.